Ian! Whew.
Yo, what's up, man?
I had to search, but I got it. I got it. The trash, straight from the streets.
Oh, it smells awful.
Yeah, well, it's trash.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Because you told me. You said street trash tonight.
Yeah, the movie, not the actual concept of street trash.
Well, what the shit?
Hey, it's my beer. What are you doing?
You take the trash.
Oh,
I take the beers. Oh, yeah! We're done with this one.
there you go. That's the sketch. That's how you fucking do sketches.
God, this shit smells like shit. Ian,
Chris,
we're kicking it off.
welcome to
Goodbye.
a month of body-melting horror movies.
Which is mostly a thing we're going to do on the podcast.
Yes.
But we had a bunch of movies picked out, and we only had limited time, so we said we're going to cover street trash on our show.
Nobody was up to the task of watching street trash.
I knew what it was, and I thought some
you seen it
people.
before?
I have a long time ago, and I knew some people it wouldn't be their kind of thing.
Fair enough.
I didn't want to make them sit through that because it is an interesting movie, and it's.
So yes, Gulai, special monthly event this month on our audio podcast. Be sure to check it out everywhere fine podcasts are sold.
Yep.
To talk about movies like...
The Incredible Melting Man.
That's the first up, I think. No,
Society. Other things
the
that
Blob remake.
The Blob remake, which is not bad at all. I don't even know why we're doing that. But yeah, neither is Society.
We're reaching for melting.
There's a limited number of body melting movies. Now let's move on and let's talk about a little movie called Street Trash. It is from 1987, directed by Jim Muro, I want to say.
Correct. And
it is a very... I have fond memories of this movie.
Okay. How old were you when you saw it?
I don't remember. But it is a movie, to me, that is very much a trauma movie if it was very competently made.
Okay. So I'm seeing it for the first time tonight.
Okay.
I am fresh off of the street trash train.
Okay.
And boy, was that an experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It is an unapologetic movie.
That is a good way to describe it.
And probably mildly offensive. To some people.
Yeah, this is the epitome of movies that don't hold up. I don't know how well it would have...
What?
I don't know how well it would have been taken at the time to begin with, to be fair.
Okay. I'm
To be
lost
fair.
already. Okay.
But yeah.
What do you mean doesn't hold up? In what way?
I mean, there's some stuff in this movie that was kind of intentionally offensive, but was like cuter back then. Like especially all the casual racism. Like I think it was supposed to be comedic in nature, but it's just not cool anymore.
No,
Not that it was ever cool, but
it's an exploitation movie. None of it's supposed to be really cool.
Sure.
It's it's not a movie that is reaching for a mainstream appeal.
No, it certainly
is
is
for
not.
a very specific audience, and for an audience who wants something that doesn't hold anything back. Now, do I agree with you that the casual racism and misogyny are funny? Not really.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, where it's like, in the past,
We know better.
we know better, like, and being older and all that kind of stuff. Not that I'm that old. Oh, fuck, I'm so old. But anyways, but it's like, okay, maybe when I was in my early 20s, stop looking at the sweat on my head, you fat fuck.
What am I, the junkyard owner?
You just keep looking at me. I need my sweat rag, Ian.
Get your sweat rag.
I don't know where my sweat rag
can
is. You
pause
said
this?
you bought some on Amazon, you never brought them over.
We're not doing ads for Amazon.
Okay, but yeah, no, it's, it's inappropriate.
So, it is inappropriate for sure. This movie was an interesting experience. I don't necessarily not recommend it because it was definitely an experience. I was riding high on this one at times. I was riding low on this one at times. Like the first, maybe not quite, but almost half of the movie were really fun. Like there's an opening chase sequence where this bum is running from somebody and then another person joins the chase and somebody else gets involved. And it's very comedic in nature and it's fun and this movie revels in its grossness, which really works for what they're trying to do with this movie. And the gore effects, the good body melting effects that we're talking about, this Gulai on the podcast, were delightful. They were great.
Yeah, they're very memorable.
Yeah.
That is the thing to remember about this movie. And it's not just because they're gross, which they are, but it's because they're so colorful. They're like artwork in a way.
I was saying it reminds me of the food fight scene in Hook.
Yeah.
To quote a much more fun movie, or to reference a much more fun movie.
Yeah. If what they were throwing were body parts.
Yes.
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it had that like neon, viscous grossness. Pretty cool.
But looking back on it, the camera work in this movie is really fucking good.
It is really fucking good.
And it's not surprising.
Which makes sense because Jim Muro, this is his only featured director role. He's directed a bunch of television, but he's got a lot of work in camera departments and as a DP.
Yeah.
So
I think he worked on, did you say Terminator 2 or something at one point? I think he did something like that.
he worked on a lot of big movies of that nature at around that time.
And you could tell because this movie has, and it kind of works maybe against it for like, it's supposed to be this schlocky, low budget, very offensive exploitation movie, but it's really fucking well made that it like kind of goes against the whole nature of the movie.
There's a lot of care taken into the effects
And
into the sets. Some of the sets were
sets
awesome.
are great. The lighting is good.
Yeah.
Like the blocking is good.
Yeah.
The acting is pretty good in this movie.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, everybody did what they asked them to do.
They fit perfectly.
And it was cast really well, too.
Right.
Like, it would be really annoying if they had a bunch of homeless people and they all had pretty teeth and looked like they had really nice makeup on. They just sprinkled a little dirt on top of.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I believed these people, a lot of these people were homeless.
Yeah. It's got a great setting, that 80s urban New York City. Kind of reminds me of, like Frankenhooker, and not just because James Lawrence is in this movie, who plays the bellboy or the doorman, who's hilarious. And Frankenhooker.
What is the difference between a bellboy and a doorman?
One answers a bell, one answers a door.
Okay, good. Glad we cleared that up.
It's just straight up definitions. There you go. Put that in the dictionary. But yeah, so everything about this movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
Except for
Production-wise.
Except for the storytelling itself.
Yeah, storytelling's a mess.
Is not very compelling.
Yeah.
So like, I like the idea of drinking
The
this.
characters are compelling.
Yes.
And then they bounce them off of each other in interesting ways, in the way that like good television sometimes does.
Right, but there's no through line.
Not much,
of
no.
one. And that's what kind of like, you feel like it's supposed to be building towards something, sort of. And maybe it's like, you shouldn't because of what the whole stupid idea of the movie is. You should just kind of be experiencing it. But it does feel like it could use like just one single narrative that kind of pulls it along that was a lot stronger.
There isn't a one specific strong antagonist to the movie, especially not one responsible for that main problem of this booze that is tainted in some way.
Which is underplayed as well in this movie.
Which is really cool, but almost has no
bearing to the plot.
It's tangential to the plot at best.
Completely.
It affects the plot, but isn't part of the plot.
The other problem is, one of the main characters, the one you're first introduced to, the bum with the beard and stuff, I forget his name.
He's an important part of the makeup department.
He's one of the primary characters in the movie, but he's kind of like also a degenerate and not very likable and does questionable things. So
his character should be the hero, the protagonist, and he's really gross.
But he has a younger brother who is that naive, innocent kind of person.
Yeah, but he doesn't get to be the protagonist either. Really.
And that's where
if
it's
anything,
like
he's a damsel in distress.
So
yeah, I would say this movie took a lot of care to make it really gross, both in its physical effects, its sets, its griminess, but also all of its characters were gross. There's really, other than maybe the little brother who's a little wimp, there's nobody that's really all that likable. I guess there's the woman who works at the junkyard.
There's the guy who wears the mask who robs the grocery store. He's good. He's funny. That was like the funniest moment in the movie is when the guy's
But he's certainly not a
robbing
good person.
but he doesn't do anything really terrible. But yeah, I don't know.
To see this world through the lens of a more innocent and good-hearted person might have made this a little bit more palatable, though. You know, and there isn't really one main character to it in the end, anyway. But
right.
So yeah, I've got two main thoughts about this. One is I would call this movie a poor man's Re-Animator.
No, not at all. Did you watch Re-Animator?
I watched Re-Animator quite recently. Again.
Really?
Yeah.
How is this anything like Re-Animator?
It reminds me of it aesthetically, just in that you got all these like great gore effects.
Amazing gore effects, yeah.
Just like Re-Animator. But
Yes.
like this is definitely like, but that is very much like a college-educated professor type of a science situation. But this is just street trash. It's like street trash dealing with that same grossness and
I don't know.
It's not story-wise very similar to Re-Animator.
For me,
but
in Re-Animator, Herbert West is a very likable character, even though he does questionable things. But
he's likable?
Yeah, because it's a funny movie. Like the way things spiral out of control for him and the way he reacts is hilarious. I don't know. Like I think the situation.
Have you seen Re-Animator recently?
Yeah, I've seen it so many times.
There's nothing likable about Herbert West.
What, are you kidding me?
He's one of the main antagonists of the movie in many ways. He's really well acted.
Yeah.
Which makes the movie more fun.
But yeah, and that movie
makes the movie work.
The movie has way more of a straightforward narrative.
Yeah, for sure.
Builds to something. And feels like it ultimately climaxes in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't. Like, this has a really cool end, and a lot of stuff goes down at the end.
For half a minute, I thought this movie was going to end 20 minutes earlier than it did.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be like, wait, we lost the thread of the tainted alcohol entirely. It kind of builds to a climax that feels like a natural ending to a movie, and then it gets back into what I actually wanted this movie to be. So yeah, I liked like the first 40% of this movie. It was a great time. After that, it gets real dicey with some real disgusting, rapey stuff, and just some awful things being said and done to people with no real intent or purpose or drive to the story. And then like the last 20 minutes are really fun again with cool gore effects,
pretty much,
and you know, action and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. The middle sections definitely bogs it down. All right. So that kicks off Gulai with Street Trash. It is a movie that I wouldn't recommend to most people. It's not your mostly friendly mainstream kind of movie, but it does serve a very specific niche audience who are very much into being, I would say your Trauma fans probably would get behind this. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like the old Trauma movies, like your Nukem High and your Toxic Avenger, where
the junkyard owner in this movie was in those. They
felt a little more competent than recent Trauma movies feel more, I don't know, maybe it's because it's digital and back then it was film, but this felt more like real movies. This is still like way better quality than a Trauma movie in production. So
as a general rule, I'd agree with that.
So check it out, Street Trash. You can get it now on Shudder if you have a Shudder subscription.
Yes.
We are sponsored by Shudder.
We are not.
Okay.
We'd be willing to be though.
Use promo code Shudder
on Shudder.
On Shudder, and then you let us know if that works.
You will get precisely 0% off.
We should email Mr. Shudder himself.
Mr. Shudder?
Yeah.
Is that how they got its name?
I think that's how it works.
Okay.
All right, that's going to do it. We'll catch you here next time on this thing. See you later.
And join us on the podcast again for the month of Gulai.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Special guests all month. It is going to be super rad.
Oh, my God. Is this how it starts?